What if I told you that going silent wasn't weakness, it was the first sign of your awakening? They walked away thinking you'd fall apart, that you'd beg, chase, or crumble under the weight of rejection, but instead you disappeared, not in defeat, but in discipline. The pain hit hard, the silence was loud, but in that void you found something they never expected: clarity, control, and the spark of a man rebuilding himself from the inside out. Ghosting isn't retreat, it's transformation. You're standing at a critical fork in the road. One path leads to endless overthinking and emotional chaos. The other, it leads to power, peace, and the presence that makes them question everything. If you're done being predictable and ready to become undeniable, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below, "I vanish to evolve." Let's dive in. Number 1. When silence becomes the loudest. Response to betrayal. Betrayal has a way of inviting chaos, screaming matches, broken trust, desperate messages for closure. They expect you to spiral, plead, and collapse under the emotional weight of rejection and deceit. But the greatest disruption you can ever offer is none at all. No reaction, no outburst, no explanation. Just a deep, impenetrable silence. Not the kind born of bitterness or hidden hope, but a powerful, stoic silence, forged through self-mastery. When someone betrays you, they often expect to see the consequences of their actions reflected in your breakdown. It reaffirms their value and their control. It feeds their ego. But when you offer them nothing, no tears, no pleas, not even a second glance, you strip away their ability to feed off your pain. You deny them the closure they didn't deserve to begin with. You remove yourself from the emotional battlefield entirely, and that absence speaks louder than any retaliation ever could. From a Stoic perspective, this silence isn't weakness, it's resilience. It's a signal that you've chosen to invest your energy not into drama, but into discipline. Your pain becomes the forge, and you begin the slow, deliberate work of transformation within that fire. You no longer view betrayal as the end of something, but the beginning of a new, stronger version of yourself. This is the essence of what Marcus Aurelius meant when he said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Her betrayal, painful as it is, becomes your path." And while you're rebuilding and healing in silence, she begins to feel something she never expected: confusion. She wonders why you haven't reacted, why you haven't reached out, why are you not shattering like she assumed you would. That confusion leads to questions that plant seeds of doubt in her mind. Was I not important enough to break him? Did he always have this strength and I failed to see it? The truth is, she doesn't get to witness your comeback. She forfeited that privilege when she decided you were disposable. Now your healing becomes invisible, your growth becomes a mystery. And this mystery creates a vacuum she can't escape. She thought she knew you, but now she only knows the absence you left behind, an absence that grows more powerful the longer it remains unexplained. This doesn't mean you act cold. It means you act calm. You redirect your emotions into something productive, building a stronger body, sharpening your mind, mastering your impulses. Every time you resist the urge to reach out, you're not just holding the line, you're drawing a new one that defines a man who no longer gives his power away. Let her sit in silence, let her stew in the uncertainty, let her confront her decisions without the emotional crutch of your reaction. That's your revenge, not in pain or words, but in your absence. And more importantly, that's your freedom. Because real power isn't in how loudly you fight back, it's in how completely you move on without ever needing to explain why. Now, speak out and comment below. I control my mind, no one else does. Number 2. Pain is a weapon, if you choose to forge it. Right now it burns. The betrayal, the loss, the questions that replay endlessly in your mind. You wonder why she did it, what you missed, whether you'll ever feel the same again, and in that loop of rumination it's tempting to sink, to let the pain define you. But what if, instead of being your downfall, this pain could become the raw material for your rebirth? What if every ache in your chest is not a weakness but a forge? The Stoics never denied pain. They never claimed that a broken heart should be ignored or pushed aside. In fact, they embraced it as a mirror and a message. Pain is not the enemy, it is the light pointing to what you need to change. When someone betrays you, it exposes the gaps in your boundaries, the places where your standards faltered, where your self-respect was flexible. But that exposure is not humiliation, it's opportunity. This moment, as dark as it feels, is your chance to rebuild the architecture of your life. You can use it as fuel to raise your standards and become the kind of man so deeply rooted in purpose that no person's departure can destabilize him. That doesn't mean you shut off emotionally, it means you stop seeking rescue. You stop waiting to be understood. You stop hoping she regrets it. And you start looking inward, not to fix what she broke, but to reinforce what you now know must be unshakable. The gym becomes your sanctuary. Your journal becomes your battlefield. Your purpose, whatever mission drives you forward, becomes your compass. Every drop of sweat, every hour spent building something instead of texting her, becomes a declaration. I am not broken. I am in the process of becoming indestructible. Because here's the truth, she didn't break you. She revealed you. She peeled away the illusion you were hiding behind. She forced you to confront the version of yourself that tolerated and gave too little. And now that you've seen him, you have a choice. Let him stay, or let him die so something greater can rise. As you train your mind to stop reacting, train your body to get stronger and sharpen your vision, something begins to shift. You start to feel the fire beneath the pain, the drive, the hunger. You stop thinking about whether she's watching. You no longer care if she ever understands the man you're becoming. Because this journey, this disciplined, silent transformation, is not about her. It never was. It's about becoming the man you were always capable of being, but never pushed hard enough to uncover. Pain is the hammer, you are the steel, and every strike makes you sharper. Now speak out and comment below. This pain shapes me. I choose to be forged, not broken. Number 3. The exit, without explanation, echoes the loudest. She wanted you to react, to argue, plead, or at the very least leave behind some emotionally charged words she could replay as proof of her importance. She expected a fight, not necessarily because she wanted to win it, but because it would affirm her power. She anticipated drama, tears, and maybe even rage. But instead, you chose silence. Not just any silence, but the kind that is cold, absolute, and unshakable. You left no trace, you simply walked away. This act of withdrawal isn't cowardice, it's control. It is the ultimate act of emotional sovereignty, because the man who says nothing, who offers no reaction, is the man who cannot be manipulated, and that terrifies her more than any angry text or desperate phone call ever could. Your absence is unsettling. Your refusal to engage denies her the closure she believed she deserved. And in that denial, you take back the power she thought she held. The Stoics taught that clarity is the most effective response to chaos, not noise but space. When you step back instead of stepping in, and remove yourself instead of reacting, you stop playing the role she assigned you, you become unreadable. And nothing unbalances a person faster than uncertainty. She doesn't know what you're thinking. She doesn't know if you're hurting. She doesn't know if you're done for good or preparing to return stronger. And that mystery becomes a weight she carries in your place. You don't need to slam doors to make a statement. Your silence is the door. It's the barrier that separates you from the past. It's the boundary that says, I no longer offer myself where I'm not respected. You didn't announce your departure because a man of value doesn't explain why he refuses to be mistreated. He simply disappears, not to punish, but to preserve. And while she might pretend your silence doesn't affect her, it does, deeply. She replays your last words, only to find none. She looks for signs that you still care, only to find a void. She starts asking questions you'll never answer, not because you're withholding, but because you've outgrown the need to explain yourself. Meanwhile, you're building. You're not on pause. You're in motion, training harder, thinking clearer, working longer, becoming stronger. Every day, your silence grows heavier, not as a tactic, but as a reflection of how far you've moved on. She once had your attention. Now, she can't even get your thoughts. There is no need for confrontation when you've already conquered yourself. And in that self-conquest, she sees something that can't be touched. A man who doesn't need closure to close the chapter. Now, speak out and comment below. My silence isn't passive. It's proof I've moved on. Number 4. Her rejection was your redirection to power. It stung when she left. There's no denying that. Some of you believed she was meant to stay, that if you tried hard enough, loved deep enough, or proved your worth long enough, she'd see your value. But she didn't. She walked away, and in that moment, it felt like loss. But over time, that rejection revealed itself for what it really was. A gift in disguise. Not a defeat, but a door, a chance to reclaim your power, redirect your focus, and redefine your identity. Stoic philosophy doesn't romanticize heartbreak, it meets it with clarity. The pain you feel isn't evidence that you've lost something vital. It's a signal, a flashing light, showing you where your boundaries were too soft, your worth was undervalued, and your self-respect needs reinforcement. Her rejection wasn't the universe turning its back on you. The world held up a mirror and asked, "Who are you without her?" And now you have the answer. You are the man who gets up, who refuses to collapse under someone else's decision, who doesn't need permission to rise. Her leaving didn't break you. It shook you awake. It pulled you out of the haze of neediness and forced you to confront a truth you may have been avoiding. You were investing in someone who wasn't worthy of everything you offered. Let that truth sting, let it burn, and then let it fuel you. Because once you stop seeing rejection as a statement about your value and start seeing it as a recalibration of your standards, you begin to take back everything you gave away. You start demanding more, not from her, but from yourself. You stop asking, "Why didn't she choose me?" and start declaring, "I no longer choose her." This shift doesn't happen overnight, but day by day as you rebuild your habits. Stop watching her stories and pour your energy into your body, mind, and mission. Something begins to change. You stop caring whether she regrets it. You stop needing her to notice, because you've stepped onto a path she can't follow, a path of purpose. And the deeper you walk that path, the more the pain fades into perspective. What once felt like heartbreak now feels like liberation, because without her, you've reconnected with something even more important: yourself. Her rejection didn't end your story, it simply removed the wrong character so the real one, you, could finally rise. Now speak out and comment below. Her rejection redirected me. I choose my own path now. Number 5. Indifference is the highest form of freedom. Most men believe the opposite of love is hate. They think that if they can show anger or coldness toward the one who walked away, it somehow levels the field. But real power doesn't come from emotional retaliation, but indifference. Not forced, not fake, but earned through healing, focus, and the daily choice to no longer allow her actions to dictate your peace. True indifference isn't about pretending. It's not wearing a mask while secretly stalking her online or hoping she still misses you. That's not indifference. That's obsession dressed in silence. The Stoic man doesn't suppress emotion, he transforms it. He acknowledges the pain, but then he asks the most important question: what will I do with it? And the answer is simple: you build. You build a life so rich with meaning that her presence, or lack thereof, no longer alters your direction. You stop reacting to her, not because you're trying to prove anything, but because there's nothing left to react to. Your world no longer revolves around her orbit. You've created your own gravity. This kind of indifference frightens someone who once had emotional power over you. She was used to your validation, your attention, your availability. When those things vanish, not as a ploy, but as a result of you finally waking up to your own value, it disrupts the dynamic. Why doesn't he care anymore? Why isn't he reacting? Has he moved on? The questions swirl inside her, but your answers no longer come. Because the truth is, she doesn't get access anymore. She doesn't get to peek behind the curtain and see whether you're struggling or succeeding. You've outgrown the need to be seen. You're not posting to make her jealous. You're not updating your status to provoke. You've reached a level of self-control that doesn't require an audience. Indifference is the final evolution of emotional strength. It's not numbness, it's clarity. It's the calm that comes after a storm you no longer need to revisit. And when she realizes that her name no longer stirs anything inside you, not pain, longing, or even resentment, she feels the weight of your absence. But by then her opinion is irrelevant, because you've already crossed the threshold into freedom. Let her feel the void, let her wonder, but never let her see you need anything from her again. You're not cold, you're simply cured. Now, speak out and comment below. I feel nothing because I've healed everything. Number 6. Evolve in the shadows. Return unrecognizable. The world doesn't need to see your pain. It doesn't need to watch your recovery, rebuilding, or redemption unfold in real time, especially not her. She forfeited the right to witness your evolution when she walked away. And that's the most powerful part of your transformation. It happens in silence, solitude, and the dark. You improve not for the applause or to prove her wrong, but because you refuse to stay the man she left behind. You stop explaining yourself. You stop broadcasting your every step. Instead, you retreat, not in defeat, but in discipline. Like a warrior in training, you disappear from her world and reappear in your own. This withdrawal isn't passive, it's strategic. It's how you regain your footing. No status updates, no emotional tweets. Just quiet, relentless effort. Your body hardens, your mind sharpens, your soul steadies. While she scrolls through social media, looking for signs of weakness, she only finds silence. While she waits for confirmation that you're still hurting, all she gets is absence. She assumed you'd linger, watching from afar, reacting to her every move, but you're not watching anymore. You're working, training, growing, not as a show, but as a system. A system that, day by day, reshapes you into someone she no longer recognizes and could never reach again. By the time you step back into the world, you are not the same. You don't walk with desperation, you walk with direction. You no longer care if she sees the glow-up. You've transcended the need for her to notice. Because this evolution was never about her, it was about reclaiming you. The Stoics didn't teach vengeance or prove people wrong, they taught mastery over the self. And that's what you've been doing, quietly mastering your mind, your routine, your environment, turning wounds into wisdom, regret into resolve. Every weight you lifted, every boundary you set, every night you chose growth over distraction. Those were your weapons. And if one day she stumbles across your new life and doesn't recognize the man you've become, that's not an accident. That's the result of inner work done without her influence, without her gaze, without her validation. She thought you'd stay broken, but you broke free. Now, speak out and comment below. I rebuilt in silence. Now I'm unrecognizable. Number 7. Mastery is measured by what you don't react to. She expected a storm, not because she wanted to weather it, but because she wanted to feel powerful in creating it. Whether consciously or not, she hoped your emotions would erupt. Anger, desperation, begging, lashing out. Any reaction would have been enough to prove she still had a hold on you. But instead of rage, you chose stillness. You didn't give her fire, you gave her a void. And in that silence, she lost the one thing she thought she could control: your attention. Your refusal to react is not apathy, it's mastery. When you don't respond, you're not running, you're restraining. You're holding the line within yourself, which takes far more strength than any outburst. The man who reacts is at the mercy of others, but the man who remains unmoved is the one who holds power. Not power over her, power over himself. The Stoics spoke often of temperance, the ability to remain centered in chaos. This is not about bottling up your emotions. It's about deciding that your peace is more valuable than proving a point. So you don't argue, you don't chase, you don't craft messages hoping she'll understand. You let her misunderstand if that's what it takes, because you've come to a place where you'd rather be misunderstood in silence than betray your dignity in noise. And that silence eats away at her. She checks her phone, expecting a wave of reaction that never comes. She plays out scenarios. Why hasn't he said anything? Does he not care? Did he really move on that quickly? But she's not getting answers because you're not giving any. The man who says nothing is the one who commands the most curiosity. And the beauty of not reacting is that it's not just a tactic, it becomes a trait. Over time, your silence shapes your identity. You become a man who doesn't flinch, who doesn't chase emotional highs or lows, who doesn't dance to the rhythm of someone else's instability. You become a fortress, not built from stone but from the discipline of your own choices. Eventually, she may try again, a message, a memory, a test to see if she still matters. But you've mastered yourself too much to bite. You don't punish her, you simply don't participate. Because at some point, your silence stopped being a strategy and became your standard. And when she realizes that even her best efforts can't pull a reaction from you, that's when she knows she's truly lost access, not just to your words, but to your soul. Now, speak out and comment below. I own myself. I won't be moved by chaos. Number 8, you didn't collapse. You were reborn. They thought you'd fall apart. Maybe she did too. She expected your world to crash the moment she walked away, that you'd spiral into regret, reach out with apologies, maybe even beg to stay in her life. But she didn't expect this, that you'd vanish into yourself, not to mourn, but to rebuild. That the silence she left behind would not become your prison, it would become your crucible. And within that crucible, you were reborn. Heartbreak has a way of stripping away illusions. It shows you who you really are when everything comfortable and validating is gone. And in that raw exposure, you didn't wither, you rose. You didn't just recover, you transformed. Because the man who goes through betrayal and still clings to the same identity is not a man reborn, he's a man repeating. But you chose differently. You let the pain forge you. You burned down the old self and walked through the ashes. This wasn't a glow-up for social media. This wasn't a gym obsession to prove a point. It was a personal revolution. Quiet, sacred, internal. You didn't do it for her. You didn't do it for the attention. You did it because something inside you snapped. Not in weakness, but in refusal. A refusal to ever again hand your worth to someone else. A refusal to define your value by how someone treats you. That fire inside you wasn't destruction, it was purification. The Stoics teach that adversity isn't just something to survive, it's something to use. Marcus Aurelius said, "What stands in the way becomes the way." Her betrayal? It became the way, the path that led you back to yourself, to your purpose, to the version of you that had been buried under comfort, approval-seeking, and emotional dependency. And now, you're not chasing, you're not looking back, you're not even hoping she notices, because the man you've become doesn't need her regret, he doesn't need her at all. She may see you one day, different, distant, focused, unbothered. Maybe she'll wonder how you changed so much. Maybe she'll wish she stayed. But by then, it won't matter. Because the version of you that would have cared, he no longer exists. You didn't fall apart. You fell through. And on the other side, you found your real self. Stronger, smarter, colder. Not out of spite, but out of clarity. You no longer bleed for people who wouldn't even flinch for you. Now speak out and comment below. They thought I'd break, but I was being reborn. Number 9. Let her wonder. She lost the right to witness your rise. There's a cruel irony in healing after betrayal. The one who doubted your worth, walked away, treated your loyalty like an afterthought, often comes back not with apologies but with curiosity. But the answer is already out of reach when she wonders how you're doing, where you've gone, or what's changed. She doesn't get to see it anymore. She lost that privilege. Your growth is now hidden behind a closed door. No updates, no hints, no staged comebacks. She only finds silence while she scrolls and searches, hoping to catch a glimpse of who you've become. And in that silence, she starts to ask the questions that haunt her. Did he move on? Has he changed? Is he doing better without me? But the worst part for her isn't the answer. She'll never know. That uncertainty, that's the weight she now carries. And it's not out of revenge. It's not a game. You're not trying to make her suffer. You're simply focused. You've turned inward, not to collapse, but to climb. The man you're becoming doesn't chase closure, share progress for applause, and don't need validation from the person who once overlooked his value. You've become self-contained, self-fueled, and most of all, self-respecting. The Stoics teach that we shouldn't seek recognition for our discipline, that the reward for mastering ourselves is not praise, but peace. You've learned that. That's why you no longer post out of spite. You don't show off your body, your wins, your progress. You let her imagination do all the work. And imagination is crueler than truth, because it fills the silence with fears she can't verify or escape. What if he really changed? What if I missed my chance? But while she sits in that cloud of unknowing, you keep moving, uninterrupted, unconcerned. You're no longer trying to prove anything to her. You've already proven everything to yourself. And that is the most powerful transformation, to become so focused on your path that even her regret becomes irrelevant. Let her wonder, let her question, but don't let her back in, because the man you are now doesn't need to be seen. He simply is. Now, speak out and comment below, she doesn't get to see who I've become, and that's her loss. Number 10. She thought you'd wait. Now she's the one waiting. At first she believed she had time, that you'd wait around, maybe not forever but long enough. She assumed you'd be there, emotionally parked, silently hoping she'd return. That's the script she wrote in her head, where she calls the shots and you remain stuck in place, frozen in longing. But something unexpected happened. You moved on. Not the kind of surface-level moving on that's loud and performative, meant to provoke jealousy or spark regret. No, you evolved. Quietly, consistently, you took the time she gave you in her absence and invested it back into yourself. While she sought temporary distractions, you built something permanent. Discipline, strength, and clarity. You stopped wondering whether she'd reach out. You stopped looking at your phone, and instead you looked at your life, flaws, and goals, and you got to work. And now the roles have reversed. She thought she could leave and come back when she was ready. She thought your heart was a waiting room, not a one-way door. But the man who stands here today is not the one she left behind. He's colder, not from bitterness, but from clarity. He's stronger, not because he needed to be seen, but because he refused to stay broken. And most painfully for her, he's no longer available. Your absence wasn't meant to be a message. It was simply necessary. You had no interest in teaching her a lesson. But your growth became a lesson anyway, not because you tried to make her regret, but because she now sees the consequence of her own choice. She underestimated the man you could become. And now she's the one who waits for answers, for closure, for access to the man she didn't believe in when it mattered. But the door is no longer open, the chapter is closed, and you're not checking the rearview mirror. Because the Stoic man doesn't return to what weakened him. He doesn't revisit broken places to see if they've changed. He simply walks forward and never looks back. Let her sit in the silence, let her wait, let her wonder, but don't let her in. Not because you hate her, not because you want revenge, but because you finally love yourself more than the idea of being loved by someone who left. She thought you'd wait, but now she's the one staring at the door that will never open again. Now, speak out and comment below. She waits now, but I've already walked away. You started this journey feeling abandoned, like they left and you had nothing left to stand on. But in the silence, you didn't collapse. You rebuilt. They thought you'd be waiting. Instead, you became untouchable, not because you needed to prove something, but because you finally saw your own worth. She didn't break you. She activated the version of you who doesn't beg, doesn't chase, and never folds. If you're ready to keep growing in silence and striking with strength, like this video, subscribe and comment below. I am unstoppable. Stay quiet. Stay dangerous. The storm you're becoming will speak for itself.